Hey everybody, in today's episode, it's myself, Eric, and Dr. T. Look, we're referencing a recent podcast that Joe Rogan did where he talked about how he's going to stop drinking, and that sparks conversation. This is going to be more for you normal folk that can actually have a couple of drinks and be okay. Well, we're getting into a little bit of what it does to us physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that stuff, and how you may want to second guess whether or not you're going to continue to partake in those couple of drinks. Then it spirals into myself and Eric. We tell some horror stories and how we drank back in the day, and we even get Dr. Tambini to share a little bit of her drinking habits, and maybe an intervention is involved. Totally kidding. Anyways, after that, we just wrap up the episode, but I do want to share with you one thing. Don't forget, June 3rd is when our Family Reconnect program is launching. Go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC to get the info. It's going to be an absolute amazing experience for you. If you're a family member or a loved one and you have somebody that is afflicted with alcoholism or addiction, this is definitely something that you want to check out. So June 3rd, realrecoverytalk.com/FRC. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Eric. Hello, Eric.
Hey.
And we also have Dr. T. Dr. T, what up?
What's up, guys?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Right.
That's right.
Eric, you got some new sneakers.
You did.
I like them.
Pretty
They're
cool,
cute.
aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
What are those, Skechers?
They're Vans. I don't wear Skechers.
Oh, Vans. You don't wear the Skechers with the
I'm old school.
Tempur-Pedic insoles yet? You're not there yet, huh?
No,
Let's buy
I'm a
him
Vans
some.
man.
Let's just see. what
Yeah, we
it looks
should.
like.
Yeah.
Like the moon shoes, you know?
Right.
Okay, so in today's episode, we got the doctor here, so this is going to work out just perfectly fine. Eric, you had sent over an article. It would have been last week. Why don't you talk a little bit about
that? I sent you over an article that I read on the news. I think it was Fox News maybe, but about Joe Rogan was talking about what made him quit drinking. I think he's been sober a little over a year, maybe year and a half, something like that.
Really, that long?
I believe so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Okay.
But
I didn't know he was sober.
Wrong. Well, he doesn't, not sober. Let me rephrase
okay.
that. Hasn't drank alcohol.
Okay, got it.
And so he told why he gave up alcohol. And it's something that we never really talk about. Like, we talk about addiction and alcoholism, but his thing was just the fact that how about it's really, really bad for you to go out for a night of drinking. Now, he's not talking about, a glass of wine with dinner, that type, or a drink a night. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going out for a night of drinking, partying. No other substances, but, tying one on, right? With the fellas or whatever. And, here's a guy, he's doing ice baths. He's really into physical fitness, jujitsu, all this stuff. And then he's going out and poisoning himself once a week. It's totally counterproductive to what we're doing. And we don't talk about that a lot, about just how bad it is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was interesting. Would make for an interesting podcast, because not everybody that tunes into this is an addict or an alcoholic. They might be like, oh, well, I can handle it. I can, or I'm not losing my job. I'm not doing that. What do you do? How much are you drinking? Is it causing physical problems for you? Is it like, how bad is it for you?
Mm-hmm.
And you could speak to that more than.
Well, it ties into, we got an email back in March, and it was a podcast topic. I don't know if this is a guy or a girl, but they said it would be interesting to hear a doctor come on and talk about the physical effects of alcohol. What does it do to your body? What are signs that you're drinking too much? So that came back in March, and we're just now getting to it, but here we are.
But if you think about the few days after a night of drinking, this is back before I was, would have considered myself an alcoholic. I was on my way to it, but I wasn't okay for days. Between the lack of sleep, because you don't sleep good when you're hungover. When you pass out, you're not sleeping, correct? You're just passed out. Between that and the food I eat after and just what it does to my body, I could feel the effects of it. And the older I got, for weeks afterwards. or at least a week afterwards. Like I just wasn't right.
Yeah. Oh, it was terrible waking up after a night of drinking hot wings and, fried cheese balls, fried mushrooms, mozzarella sticks, all my favorites.
Right.
But couple that with 24 Budweisers and look out. I mean.
And so we know the long-term effects, right? You get, your liver failure, that stuff. But what about just the short-term effect, particularly for someone who's really into physical fitness and doing all this, their antioxidants and all this stuff, and then they go out and do this once a week for a whole night,
Yeah.
What are the
Okay,
short-term
Doc.
effects?
All right.
You're up.
I mean, to answer your question, like just one night, well, there's a lot of things that it does. Like it is toxic to your mucosa lining of all of your organs. So from your mouth to your throat to your esophagus to your stomach. So it irritates it, erodes it, even after a night of just heavy drinking. So you can get a leaky gut, you can get bowel irritation. Some people, that's why you can get nausea. It disrupts your gut flora, right? So if you're taking probiotics and prebiotics and you're eating healthy food, just that one night of drinking can affect something as little as that and set you back. So basically what you're doing from the gut aspect is null. And a lot of functional medicine physicians talk about that. To fix your body as a whole, you have to fix your gut.
Right.
And if you keep drinking heavily, intermittently, even if it's not every day, you're ruining your gut, the flora, the lining, everything that's involved in that aspect. But also the breakdown products of alcohol cause you to have headache, right? They make you feel tired. You feel that next day you're like in a mental fog. Alcohol in itself is essentially a diuretic. So you dehydrate yourself, so you pee. So that's also why the next day you feel so bad. So all of the work you were doing during the week to replenish your hydration status, your muscles, you're nulling it out because you have this, and it causes widespread inflammation, not just in your gut. Think about it. If it's everything that it's touching is inflamed.
Right.
So you're undoing all of that healing that you're trying to put in.
So that sounds like, and it's safe to say then that, alcohol is not meant for human consumption. They have to burn it off to get, you used to go blind if you drank alcohol and they didn't do that burning off process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's safe to say that, again, I'm not talking about one glass of wine, although maybe, but it's safe to say that you're literally poisoning yourself.
I guess.
Would you say that? Alcohol's not meant to be drank like that.
I was watching part of the video that was sent over because he had a physician on there. I think he was like a neurosurgeon and a wellness physician.
He called himself a longevity doctor.
Okay, a longevity doctor. But I did like what he said. A lot of people will argue me and say, well, all of the studies say that I can have 1 to 2 glasses of red wine at night and it's supposed to protect my heart and protect my body. But a lot of the newer data that's coming out has completely debunked that. So it's not. But in society, they're not up to speed on that. I still get that argument daily from people. When you go to the doctor, they screen you and they say, how many drinks do you have? And people are just like, oh, 1 or 2. And then it's like, well, do you have 1 or 2 a night?
Right.
Is it every other week? What does that look like? And people get uncomfortable talking about it because they don't want to hear themselves speak about it because they're, 1, probably accountability, but 2, fear of being judged.
Right.
But we're not there to judge you. We're there to just have an open conversation about it.
Right. And there's a far cry between 1 or 2 glasses of wine and 6 shots of tequila on Taco Tuesdays at, your place with the boys. Right. You're literally. And so you talked about the gut. I have an autoimmune disease. I have Crohn's disease, which is,
pull that mic a little closer too.
I would imagine that when you poison yourself like that, your gut, that you're immune. If you have an autoimmune disease, it's got to have an effect on it. It's got to hurt your immune system or because you're putting something that's not supposed to be there in there.
Right. We know alcohol, it affects literally, if you could ask me every single organ, essentially, generally it affects it negatively. The inflammation, the decreased in the immunity, the decreased production of proteins in your liver to be able to fight immunity or to feed your muscles, to build muscle.
Right.
I could talk about this for days.
It's
but
just interesting that like the health conscious people we see today, and I'm going to make a joke here, but this was the God's honest truth. I used to sell cocaine, right? Up and down the beach area. You know, there'd always be these girls that are like, you're hanging out with them, and they're, oh, no, I don't put anything, I'm all organic. Everything I eat, I don't put anything unnatural. Hold on a second. Okay, Sniffany. That was gluten-free cocaine you just put in you. You know, it's that mentality that's like.
Well, there's a social acceptability about it, and it's something that, you know, for whatever reason, and this has been true for decades at this point, that like people want to be able to unwind.
Right.
And they want to be able to relax, and they want to, but at what expense? And I think that's one of the things that Joe Rogan is alluding to with that too. Not only, you know, you put so much time and energy and effort into the physical aspects of your body. Alcohol obviously doesn't play there. It's a net negative. There's no way you can spin it. It's not a net positive, even going back to all the new data, which most people aren't going to seek out. Somebody like Joe Rogan, he has the ability to be up to speed on all the new data. So, but for the average person, they're not going to have that. But not only the physical component of it, but the mental, spiritual, and emotional side of it as well. Why do we find it necessary to have that 1 or 2 glasses of wine a night to be able to unwind? What is it that is in our life that is causing us that much stress and anxiety and whatever, to where we can't wait to get home to have those couple glasses of wine? I'm not even saying that it's necessarily wrong. Like, look, there's always trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know we're talking specific to alcohol, but we could also say the same thing about the flipping plastic containers that we microwave our food in, right? There's always going to be some sort of negative to just about anything that we do. And we have to be conscious about that. Like, maybe the 1 or 2 glasses of wine does make sense for you in the sense that it improves your life in the sense of, like, I don't know, you can unwind, and maybe it allows you to have more productive conversation with your husband or your wife, or intimacy. It improves your intimacy, whatever it is, that's fine. Just know that it could be having negative effects on your overall physical health. And Bill Maher talked about that. I was watching Bill Maher last night. I'm starting to really like Bill Maher.
Mm-hmm.
I like him.
He had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. Shout out to Bill Maher, by the way. Club Random. Have you ever watched that?
Mm-mm.
Have you?
I think I've seen clips from it.
Yeah, so he has this podcast. You guys know who Bill Maher is?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
So he has this podcast on YouTube called Club Random, and he has everybody on, you know, all walks of life, you know, from Charlie Kirk, who is a staunch conservative, like, you know, was very instrumental in Trump getting elected, to, you know, far, you know, left-wing people, to actors, to athletes. He had Kid Rock on, like, but he was talking about, last night, Charlie Kirk was talking, and he's a very big pothead. And he drinks quite a bit. And he's like, I know that this isn't necessarily good for me, but I'm doing it. And I know could it shave off some years of my life? Yeah, it very well could, but it could add to it too. He's like, I don't know. And so I'm going to do it. And I think that's the approach that a lot of people should have with it. But going in it blindly and thinking that, oh, this is like protective, like, no, I don't think.
Right. And again, I think that what Joe Rogan was talking about is, look, when he went out drinking, just like this is where you talk about somebody who can drink alcoholically and not be an alcoholic, can go out for a night and drink alcoholically. I mean, stay out till 5 a.m, drinking, doing shots. That's not going home and unwinding and relaxing, right? Alcohol is a social lubricant. It's been used in the beginning as a social lubricant. So, you go home, like you said, and have a couple glasses of wine, you're friendlier with your wife, whatever. And I play Xbox to unwind. I go home and that's my solace where I get things off my mind for a little bit. So yeah, but I think what he's really referring to there is these health conscious people like he is and thinking, oh, why am I doing this? I feel like crap for 3 days afterwards. And you know what I mean? But I spend every other day of the week trying to build up my body. And then I spend 3 days breaking it down because one run. So I think, there's a difference between using it like that to unwind, a couple of drinks, and drinking alcoholically for a night out on the town with the boys.
How do people even I don't know, T. You dabble in your alcoholic drinks every now and again.
I do.
Yeah.
How do people go? So let me ask you this.
Okay.
What is a night of drinking for Dr. T? And I mean, just total transparency. Dr. T isn't afflicted with what Eric and I have.
Well, and before you go here, this is very important what you're asking her, because when we talk about alcoholism, we talk about having an allergy, which is an abnormal reaction.
Right.
So if I'm going to say I have an abnormal reaction, I have to know for a normal person who's not an alcoholic what a normal drink effect is on them. Otherwise, I don't know that I have an abnormal reaction to it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, normie.
I'm that person. I am this person that you're talking about. Super health conscious, work out, eat to a T, have my meals prepped. But one night, date night for my husband and I, for me, it's 2 martinis and I'm done. Like I'm pretty tipsy.
So that seems like a normal thing. That doesn't seem like a night out with the girls getting
I can't handle
hammered.
it though. If I drink more than 2 shots, I'm sick the next day. But I feel it. So I feel, you feel tipsy and I know my body. So I know when I'm like, okay, if I drink another drink, I'm going to regret this either tonight or in the morning. So I stop.
When was the last time that you went out and just got totally obliterated?
I don't remember. Maybe like 8 years ago when we were competing in CrossFit.
Okay, but
your lesson.
Your birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
And you're traveling to the city that never sleeps.
Right.
What are you going to get tore up from the floor up or what?
No, I can't. I don't like to be sick. I don't like throwing up. I don't like feeling hungover. So what I know this is bad, but what I will do is we're going to a beach pool party at Fountain Blue. So we're going to be basically drinking all day, but I will drink one drink over 2 hours and then drink another drink over 2 hours because I don't want to get sick.
And then water.
And then water in between. But if I drink over that, I'll go get an IV to get rehydrated to flush everything.
So you just said something when you said when you go out and have the 2 martinis. This is really good because you said it makes me feel what you said, tipsy.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you want to go to bed, maybe, right? What the feeling that it gives you? You have a couple you feel what?
Well, it alludes back to what you and Tom were saying. It helps me decompress.
But once you hit that point of 2 drinks, does it make you feel like I'm getting tired? Because I'm trying to point out the normal reaction. Most people, we all know these people like you.
I feel good for a little bit, and then I'm like, all right, I want to go to bed. I want to go home and go to bed.
Right now. There it is. Now I don't get that feeling. The alcoholic does. You know what it makes me feel like? It makes me feel like I want to go to Vegas. I put 2 drinks in me, and I want to go. Let's go to the strip club. Let's go for 2 weeks. Let's go, man. I get a get up and go feeling. That's the allergy. That's the abnormal reaction is the way it makes me feel.
Right.
Makes you feel totally different. And I can't relate that. Go to bed after 2 drinks. Are you kidding me? I'm just starting.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's such an abnormal. And this is what's great and we see it on the Big Book study when family members that aren't alcoholics are watching it. And the study we're doing is letting them see the inside of our minds, how we react and how we feel. And they're puzzled. Wow. I didn't know, I don't get that. I heard Joe and Charlie one time talking about this, about watching a drinker on a plane. He's like, yeah, I'm sober. And this guy orders a drink, normal drinker. He orders a drink. The drink comes, he takes his straw and he does this little pirouette dance with the straw, stirring it. And he's just looking at him like, are you going to drink that thing, man? And he's doing his little dance. He says, and then he set it down and picked up the newspaper and he was screaming, I'm drink it. I'd have been on my third one already, right? By the time the guy finished that little thing. It's just so crazy.
That's true. And now I understand why like family members who are not alcoholics, who have a loved one that is, that's why they have a hard time understanding and meeting that person there, because in their mind and in their brain, they can stop. And they can do it just once a week and have 2 drinks like myself, but they don't understand the other side of it.
Yeah. And that's where the guy who goes out for a night of drinking with his buddies, who's drinking alcoholically but isn't an alcoholic, he's just out having a good time. And then judgment goes out the window and he stays out and he's, and it's just, it's crazy the difference when you can see it.
I remember when I lived in Pennsylvania and drinking, this is one of the first times that I truly realized this is going to be, this has a hold on me. I was at a concert and it was a small venue, like a bar. Probably you couldn't fit no more than maybe 100 people. And it was David Allen Coe. And so that was the type of
hardcore drinkers right there.
Yeah. I mean, and it was just old school country, and I went there with some friends of mine and my girlfriend at the time. I probably was, I would have been 21, 22, maybe 23 at best. And not everybody, but everybody starts going and ordering beers. And everybody gets, whatever, Budweiser, draft. Everybody drank draft, right? And it came to me and I'm like, and I had seen them take pitchers of beer and they would do have Ziploc bags frozen with ice inside the pitcher of beer. Yeah. And I remember I'm like, it was almost like I was having an out of body experience with like, I don't want this 12-ounce shit that everybody else just ordered. And I remember, and it gets me like not uncomfortable, but like goosebumps even thinking about it. I was so adamant that I wanted a pitcher for myself because that's just how I drank,
Wow.
And my girlfriend was there and we had probably been dating at this time a couple of years and she knew like I was a drunk, and I ordered it and I ordered a full pitcher of beer by myself. Now a full pitcher of beer isn't that much.
No,
and
I don't even know.
Maybe 6 beers. Right. And that was like, but then I finished it and I'm like, oh shit, and I ended up ordering another one. And I don't remember how many of them I totally had in total, but that was one of the first times where I'm like, I can't just reverse this. This isn't something that is just, you can just stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when really for me, the next probably 3, 4, 5 years, the wheels really started unraveling for me. There was no, I had lost, how do you say it? I had lost the power or
choice.
Yeah. I had lost the power of choice. I no longer had a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
And that's what I think family members and loved ones don't realize. Like I was literally, I can put myself in that chair that very night, who I was with, and the feeling that I had, knowing that I was about to order a whole pitcher of beer, even though everybody else ordered. And I was like, now a normal person would have been like, oh, I'll have that.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, here's how, I love that you tell a story because I've ordered pitchers of beer by myself, but here's when I became seasoned. I mean, I didn't stop drinking until 46 years old, 53 now, right? So when I there were times when I totally relate to that, getting a pitcher. And you're right. It's only 5 or 6 beers, right?
Yeah.
4 or 5, 6 beers. But then I realized that nobody really counts the beers that I have. Nobody would know tonight. Anybody watch me wouldn't say he had 6 beers. Nobody's counting.
Mm-hmm.
But they do remember that I had 3 pitchers.
Yeah.
Dude drank 3 pitchers, man.
Yeah.
And I stopped ordering pitchers because I got deceitful. That's what we learned. We learned to hide it so well. Like everybody knows, but we think we're hiding it. Like, you know.
Right.
There was this bar I went to, Fat and Skinny's. And it was that I was notorious for this. I'd go home, get into a blowout fight with my dad because I'd drive home absolutely obliterated. How many beers do you have tonight, Tom? I only had 6 or 8 or whatever, but they were 35 ounce,
right.
30. I mean, these mugs, you kill somebody with this mug if you hit them with it, thick, and they put them in the freezers, and you'd have this big 35 ounce, frosted draft. Very, very, but I would have, 8, 10, 12 of those things,
wow.
and that was a normal night for me. And throwing back shots at Jim Beam. I mean, but again, going back to the family members and loved, I did not want to be that person. I didn't know there was another way out.
Yeah.
And last night we were on the Big Book study, and I want to bring this up and then we can wrap this up. There was something really interesting that happened last night, and I'm going to give her a shout out, Bernadette.
Yeah.
She's been at the Big Book study every single week religiously, and she participates, and she's not an alcoholic. She's a mom of her son is in active alcoholism. And Eric, you're probably better to speak on this, but I felt like it was really impactful.
Yeah. What she talked about and the way she put it affected me greatly. I was thinking about it all night.
Yeah.
Really. And what happened, Bernadette, she's been following this Big Book study, and she sees how enthusiastic we are about it. And she is getting an in-depth knowledge of why the steps work and how they work. And she's come to realize that there is a solution, that this isn't just, a pipe dream, that it's not just rehab. And why aren't they fixed after rehab and another stint in rehab, and that there is a way out of this thing. Right. But she can't give it to him and make him do it. And it was very powerful in the sense that, because I felt the same way with sponsorship and with speaking to patients and stuff, I'd want to give this to them. And it made her sorrowful. She had a deep sorrow in understanding that, wait, there is definitely a way out of this. They're just not taking it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was interesting how she put it. She's like, I feel saddened.
Yeah.
That because now she knows that this is available to him, but he's not taking it.
Right.
And to be honest, I didn't know I'm glad you stepped in and said, because in that moment, I didn't know what to say. I'm just like, and I kind of piggybacked off Eric, and I'm like, Bernadette, you're doing everything that you can, and just keep doing what you're doing, And so that's.
And I pointed out the line in the book. It says our only thing was to pick up these spiritual kit of tools that was laid at our feet. Wasn't handed to us. It was laid at our feet, which meant that I have to pick it up. And we talk about willingness is indispensable. That means it's absolutely necessary. But it can't make somebody willing if they're not willing. And that's what she and other family members are dealing with. And it's so frustrating because you want to shake them and say, just do this.
All right.
So.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Let's answer the question from the email. So how do we know if someone's drinking too much? How we know from a medical standpoint, even if it's light drinking, not everyday drinking, the most common things we see are high blood pressure, and then I'll start asking the patient about how much they're drinking. And then that's when people get squirrely most of the time.
Yeah.
And they're in denial about it, which that's okay. And then when we see their blood work, we'll see abnormality like in their liver enzymes, mostly same thing prompts a conversation. So just like lightly, that's what we see. And as a physician, you kind of know. So approach the topic lightly with them about it. Like, hey, what's going on? How much are you drinking? This is having negative effects on your physical health. But over time, how do you know when someone's drinking too much? Well, that's when they come in and start telling you night sweats, tremors, handshakes, during the day, maybe anxiety or panic attacks because they're withdrawing and they don't know they're withdrawing, mood changes, irritability because they're craving and they're just waiting for the day to get through at their job and they want to go drink as soon as they get off, and neuropathy. So pins and needles in their hands and feet. A lot of people come and talk about that. And it's alcohol itself, but it's nutritional deficiencies that they don't know that they're having because alcohol is ruining the gut. They're not eating like they're supposed to, and they're not absorbing the nutrients that they're eating. So nutritional deficiencies. So that's just like tip of the iceberg.
That first one that when you come in and you first see it, that stuff, if they quit drinking, that stuff's reversible, right? The high blood pressure, the liver enzymes and stuff, they at a point, and then there becomes a point where I guess it's not.
Well, I say all the time, alcoholism is slow and progressive until it's not, and it becomes fast and aggressive. You know, as a matter of fact, I had this conversation with a kid last night. Not a kid; he's a guy, and I've been talking to him about his mom, and she's in her late 50s and definitely alcoholic. I mean, I would never call her an alcoholic, obviously, but he said to me, "Yeah, she's like, going out and buying Fireball," and I'm like, well, that's the first sign. No normal drinkers are going out and buying Fireball. And then she's tucking it by her bedside. But anyways, to go to your point, that's what I said to him. I said, look, she's still relatively young and, she had never been to rehab before, never been to treatment. I said, so any health consequences that she is having up to this point, because she does have a stomach ulcer, which is probably a direct result of drinking.
Very common.
I said it's right now it's slow and progressive until it's not, and then it becomes fast and aggressive. And I had just thought of that in that moment.
Yeah, and you got all these other problems until you have that problem. Then you only have one problem, right? Your health. Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned Fireball. I know we got to go here, but we had a patient walk in here one time and into the building. They're like, that candle smells like Fireball. I'm like, non-alcoholics call that scent cinnamon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Fireball causes diabetes. You don't know how many people I've had in detox where we do their blood work. So you do blood work on everyone and their A1C, which is supposed to be 6.5, is like 12. And now they need insulin for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Of all the sugar content that they were drinking. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I didn't even know.
What was your absolute, like, you would drink it if you had to, but,
Chivas Regal Scotch whiskey.
What the hell is that?
Is any Scotch whiskey, because I got so drunk on it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
At a camping thing that I could never smell it again. But so I really didn't drink it since I was a kid. But tequila, I couldn't. Smelling it would make me gag.
What about you, T? Do you have anything that, like, back in college days that you were like
Bacardi 151?
Oh, I was going to say that.
Off of that.
I was going to say that Bacardi 151 and Jaeger.
Yeah, that would have to.
Jaeger.
Everyone would be Jaeger because of college days, but
I was 16 years old, and we're going to wrap up with this. This is an episode of War Stories, but it was New Year's Eve, and my buddy Jay, who was in my wedding, I still talk to on a regular basis. I would always go to his house and drink, and his dad would, as soon as I walk in, he'd hold a basket out, put your keys in there. Yeah. And I was probably 16, 17 somewhere. And I was always the youngest by like 4 or 5 years, so I'm 16 and everybody's 20, 21. I was so obliterated, and they were feeding me shots of 151 and Jaeger. And I remember sitting there. I remember it plain as day. I remember watching the TV, a tube television, and that 70s show was on. And I remember this TV just going in circles, right? And going in circles. And it wasn't even anywhere near midnight yet. And somebody came, and I was sitting there with the beer, and you'd have to watch on YouTube to get the full experience. But I'm sitting there with a bottle of beer in my hand, and somebody comes up and taps it. And that, like, adrenaline, like that happening, I put my thumb over it, start spraying all over the place, and then projectile vomited all over the place. And then they ended up throwing me in the bathtub. And I remember, like, probably 6 hours later, I'm hearing all these police cops all over the place. And I remember there was a window here, and I remember seeing the lights coming in the thing, and I was fully dressed in the shower running. I don't know how long I had been in there. The people across the street, it was this gay couple, and they had gotten into a fight, and the one guy ran over the other his like partner.
Oh no.
Yeah, he didn't kill him, but it became a whole thing. And that same night,
the party.
yeah, no, nothing to do with the party. And they threw my bicycle. No, that was a different
bicycle.
No, that was a different time. But one time they threw my bicycle on the roof of the house, and I had to get, I got all kind of stories.
Back when it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was in Bessemer, Pennsylvania.
That's funny.
So anyways, that was fun, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, really think about what you're doing if you're going to consume alcohol, if you're not an alcoholic, and you can have a couple of drinks, whatever. Just know the trade-offs, T, any final thoughts?
No.
Eric, any final thoughts?
No, I just want to say, it's okay to talk war story once in a while.
Yeah.
We have to look back on that stuff. And it's also qualifies us. So
yeah, it's laughable now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got many more. Maybe one day
you and I drank a lot. We would have been drinking buddies because I was a bar.
For
I was
sure.
a bar drinker and a beer drinker like you were.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
like the social aspect of it.
Maybe one episode we'll come on and just share nothing but war stories.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be good to hear. I like to hear war stories.
Yeah, because my war stories aren't, until the end there, they're not like tragic, because it was bar drinking and stupid stuff that I did.
Yeah, but you were also aggressive, I feel like. Like you didn't...
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I just liked, just don't look at me wrong and I'm fine.
Yeah. I probably would have avoided you in the bars just because like you're very intimidating to look at. You know what I mean?
Well, and I bounced in bars.
That's what I'm saying. And like, you look like a Hell's Angel or an outlaw, So with the glasses.
I went to the right bars though for the look.
Yeah. All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.